like setting control. So
as commentators, sometimes the only thing you can do is refer to these characters by their nicknames or even by the character they're playing, which is something I don't like to do, but sometimes it's the best you've got.
Now we are seeing a bit of a delay. I believe we might be seeing the tournament coordinator right now, Jake Walch, competing.
Yes, he did say to me multiple times that he would be competing in this tournament.
Okay, so in this match, we're going to be seeing our tournament coordinator Walsh competing against ES Sorrow. We just had the bracket update.
Both of us, no doubt, will be rooting for Jake. I am sure of it. He's done so much work to put this tournament together. Been a great guy to work with.
He's absolutely been running around like a chicken with his head cut off. If you have seen him on campus, he's been very stressed. Now, all right, so we see Jake. I wonder who he's gonna pick. Yep, going with me.
Yes, this will be an interesting,
and Jake going
competition.
With
Crom is definitely one of the characters that surprised me, being an inclusion that I thought, oh, definitely this is going to happen. And seeing him being an Echo fighter, it was a little bit disappointing. But the thing that mixes him up from his counterpart, Roy, is his upbeat, a sort of ether Echo coming off of Ike's moveset. And this really changes up the way Crom players play as opposed to Roy players. That and additionally his sword functions like Lucina's as opposed to Marth's, which means there is no tip or shaft to pay attention to. There's only the whole blade that does one consistent amount of damage.
Right. Now, one thing that many people have indicated is how powerful the sword characters are in this game. They consistently deal quite a bit of damage. They also are very good at juggling.
They do. And I think characters with a full sword that has a consistent hitbox do have an advantage in that regard, where you don't ever have to calculate where your sword is going to hit. No matter where it does, you will be gaining damage. You will be taking your opponent up a little bit further toward a kill percentage.
Now we do see Yep coming strong out of the gate. That's so fun saying. Yep. We do see Yep taking the first stock of the match.
What the hell?
Yep, using those chakrams, a special move of the Mii sword fighter to gain some advantage from a distance, using a projectile, of which Jake really has none playing Crom here.
Now, one of my favorite parts of the Mii character is its facial expressions and how they have such an animated facial expression. The wide eyes in particular are a favorite of mine.
I just really wish, again, I wish I could be seeing Miis that were created specifically used in these tournaments. Like I've seen some people play Vince from Art Academy using that costume and really just like trolling people using Vince as a brawler.
Absolutely.
It really feels a little bit humiliating to lose to him. Or my favorite Mii of all time, Matt, the boxing champion from Wii Sports, being pulled out as a fighter in this game. A fearsome foe to go up against in any regard. Now, Yep does have the advantage right now in damage, dealing some combos with Mii sword fighter. But Jake is staying consistently away from his opponent, trying to keep himself from getting caught up in these combos. But the hero's spin from Yep takes the stock from Jake up toward the top of the blast zone.
And we see that Yep is still quite low in percentages in his second stock, so...
Again, sitting a bit comfortably, but as we've seen, that is not quite the reason to suddenly check yourself out of the match.
Absolutely. Now, we do see that Yep is still playing very aggressively in this match, which is interesting to see because sometimes you do see players dip down in their level of aggression throughout the match, but Yep has stayed consistent.
He's consistently continued to hammer his opponent with blow after blow.
Now, I do see Jake as a very aggressive player, but in this match it appears that he's just not landing the blows that he's attempting to make.
No, Yep is doing a very, very good job at keeping his opponent at bay, keeping him out of the range, and Crom, of course, had no hope of recovering at that distance. While his vertical recovery may be a force to contend with, his horizontal distance really does not represent him that well.
And that's one thing that I do think that people who play Peach's character do have quite a bit of an advantage of, is in that horizontal recovery due to the fact that Peach and Daisy can float. That is very interesting to see in matches.
Yes, while the vertical recovery with Peach may be a bit lacking with that parasol, but that float can make up for it in a situation where a player needs to recover.
And absolutely, I think that one thing that's very interesting specifically with Peach's character is sometimes you'll see that character be stuck a little bit behind the underneath to where they can jump up, and they know the limitations of that up B, so they'll float, and their opponent will come down and hit their character, so then at that point they can recover. So I think that's very interesting to see a match turn around like that.
Yes, knowing your opponent and the strengths and weaknesses of the character they're using can really be the deciding factor in matches like this. Now, when it comes to Crom's up B, his recovery, I think one of the interesting aspects of it in this game is that the up B will take opponents straight down to the blast zone if they are caught in this recovery, and this will kill at even 0%. The one caveat being that Crom himself dies.
Right. Now, we saw ES Sorrow, aka Yep, take that last match. I'll be interested to see if he maintains the level of aggression and if Jake stays as consistent. Oh, and we see Jake with the character switch. He has switched from Crom over to Yoshi.
And Yep is maintaining his Mii sword fighter.
Now, it's very interesting to me that Jake has switched from a sword character to Yoshi. A lot of times you'll see people who main sword characters switch to another sword character, but we didn't see that in this case.
Yeah, Yoshi is a very different fighter from Crom in a lot of different aspects, but I think mainly the reason he might have chosen to switch to this character is the fact that Yoshi has a very strong projectile game with his up B, the eggs that he can throw, and one of the reasons we saw Yep dominate against him in the last match was with his projectiles, with those Gale strikes and those chakrams that he was throwing out to keep his opponent at bay.
Yep seems to have a very strong understanding of the distance his attacks can cover, and we see that using him to his advantage.
And the first stock is taken with Yep not really taking much damage himself at all.
He's still at 10%. That's quite impressive.
Definitely a strong show of skill here from a Mii sword fighter player.
Now, what I'm really hoping here is that we do not see Jake start to get scrambled. I hope we see him maintain his composure throughout the match and play evenly against ES Sorrow, aka Yep.
Now, on battlefield-style stages such as this, one of the ways to play a little bit safer is to stay underneath the platforms, and players caught on top of the platforms are at a bit of a vulnerable position where they can be hit from underneath.
Now, one of the characters, like I said, I'm going to keep talking about Peach because I love Peach, is that with that up special of hers, that can be especially dangerous with that parasol attack. You'll see players collect lots of damage. Now, we do see the percentages evened out, but Yep does still have that extra stock.
Yoshi's starting to use those eggs as a projectile, trying to combat his opponent's projectile game, which is very strong, with a Mii sword fighter specifically built to have 2 projectiles in his arsenal.
Now, one thing that I do think is rather interesting about Yoshi's character is he is a bit floaty.
Yoshi is a very floaty character, and I think that was designed so that he could make up for his lack of an up B, a lack of an up B that really helps with recovery, by having a specially floaty jump that can help him get back to the ledge in a lot of sticky situations.
But in some cases, that especially floaty jump can be a bit of a disadvantage due to the fact that, from like we were saying, and similar to the platform situation, if the character does use that floaty jump too often, then the other character can catch on to that and use that to their advantage to attack them from underneath.
Yes, Yoshi does lack a bit of the fast fall mechanics that a lot of characters benefit from, being able to get from the air to the ground in a quick and reasonable manner.
Jake finally takes that first stock from Yep, but Yep is taking Jake's percentages up rather high, and he's left with 1 stock.
Yes, anything can truly happen, but I really don't see it in Jake's future to take this match.
And that's so disappointing because, like we've said, he's worked really hard to make this tournament happen.
It could be that he's feeling a bit frazzled after all the hard work he's done. Now that it's finally come down to compete, he's just had so much else on his mind.
And they have the previews linked to that. So if we
no doubt I have been rooting for him, but that last stock has just been taken. Best 2 out of 3 awarded to Yep.
And ES Sorrow takes that match and moves on.
With a Mii sword fighter, no less. I mean, that was something exciting to see, but I'm feeling bad for my man, Jake.
So we will be seeing ES Sorrow, aka Yep, versus Blitz in the quarterfinal for the winners bracket.
Definitely something to look forward to. A strong show of Mii sword fighter skills.
Absolutely. So we will be seeing Jake drop down into the losers bracket and hopefully reappear in that top 32.
Yeah, hopefully he can use this loss as motivation to prevail in the losers bracket. So what does our next matchup look like?
I believe that we'll be seeing OCAT versus Meluku 44, but I could be incorrect. It just all depends on who ends up on stage 1.
It's going to be GranoCat.
No doubt, Ocat and Meloku44 will be competing, but whether or not they're competing on stream will be the primary issue.
Yes, and we cannot see all the matches that happen here tonight and comment over them, because so many have to happen in this early stage of the tournament.
Absolutely. So I wonder for that last match, we did see a bit of the time waited in between matches decrease a little bit. So I'm wondering to see, due to the fact that we are now progressing into the quarterfinal, if maybe we're starting to get the hang of the tournament format, so the time in between matches will decrease a little bit.
And that's no doubt a good thing to see as the ball gets rolling, as people start to get the hang of this format.
Absolutely.
Keeping things rolling along smoothly without any interruptions.
Now, one of our sponsors for the tournament is Pizza Hut. They've graciously donated lots of pizza to the event, so that all of our gamers can go out and purchase food for the event.
And no doubt, there's no gamer fuel quite like some good old pizza. That's what I would say.
That is true.
Many nights are stored in my memories of hanging out till late at night with friends, binging on pizza and Mountain Dew.
Now, one thing that I do think is absolutely excellent about Smash and games in general is the timeless nature of it. I mean, I played games with friends starting. My first game console I ever got, I was 6 years old, and my brother was 4, and we got the Xbox 360 for Christmas.
Oh, so Xbox was your platform of choice.
Yes, so we got the Xbox 360 with Guitar Hero. So Guitar Hero was our first game we ever played on. But whether it's Guitar Hero, whether it's Smash, whether it's any game, you know, games in general are just a way for people to come together and experience together, whether in person or online. That's one
definitely.
That's one thing that I think is very interesting and I love is that me and my brother, so for those of you who don't know, Georgia Southern is in Statesboro, Georgia, which is South Georgia, and I'm from Claremont, Georgia, which is North Georgia, about 5 hours away. So my brother and I can still play online despite the fact that we're 5 hours away from each other. And that is a way that we can feel like we're together when we're not.
Yeah, so gaming can bring us all together. Now on this topic of first consoles, mine of course was the GameCube. I've been a Nintendo fan from the start, and the reason the GameCube was bought for me, this was a Christmas present when I believe I was in 2nd grade.
Oh, very nice.
When I was very little, I was very into arcade games. I would go to the movies with my grandparents, and outside the movie theater there were arcade machines, and I would be fascinated by these games. And there were huge lines to play these arcade machines, so I would end up having to wait for long times to get up to them and play them. So it was decided amongst my family members that I needed to own a system that I could have on my own, play video games whenever I so desired, and so I got my GameCube. First game I had on that was Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, a very nostalgic game in many ways for me.
My first actual Nintendo console was, I believe it was maybe in 5th grade. We got the Wii.
Who didn't have the Wii back then? Everybody had the Wii. That was what was so great about it.
For everybody who was I think probably 1996 to 2000 growing up, that was kind of the console of choice from late elementary school to early high school. So there were many sleepovers, parties, all that sort of stuff that you'd see Nintendo Sports played at, Nintendo Sports Resort, all that sort of.
Mario Kart, I think the definitive edition of Mario Kart to this day is Mario Kart Wii, even as all the new Mario Karts have added these bells and whistles. Mario Kart Wii, my favorite. Now we see the match beginning here, 3-Star versus Grano, Bowser versus Little Mac, and it looks like Bowser knows Little Mac pretty well because he is trying to gain advantage of Little Mac's poor recovery, throwing him off to the edge.
Now, one thing that I do think is interesting is Bowser is quite a heavy character, so it's very interesting to see a heavy matched up to somebody like Little Mac, who is no doubt faster than Bowser.
And something to contend with against Little Mac is the amount of armor that he has on many of his moves.
Absolutely.
A lot of moves he can just tank and then throw one of his own right back at the opponent without much worry. But Bowser using his Whirling Fortress, following up with a forward air to get the first stock of this matchup.
Now we do see Grano having a hard time, 3-Star having a hard time contending with Grano in this match, to the fact that, well, I take that back.
3-Star just took a mighty punch on his opponent to get a stock of his own in this battle.
I'm personally glad to see that because, as I said earlier, I'm a much bigger fan of close matches as opposed to watching pure domination.
Yes.
We actually see 3-Star
gaining a bit of an advantage,
yeah.
hammering his opponent with some quick combos that Little Mac is able to pull off against a big, heavy oaf like Bowser.
I'm rather excited to see this turnaround because we saw Grano come out pretty fast out of the gate and start with the advantage, but
now it looks like he's at quite the disadvantage.
Absolutely.
At a kill percentage already, that Little Mac could easily hammer him with a strong punch and take another stock.
But as we've seen and as we know, anything can happen in these games.
3-Star had a KO punch that he whiffed into the air, not making use of that to take the stock.
Okay, and Bowser recovers.
Oh, but that punch, it looks like that was going to take it, but not quite. Now what we just witnessed there was Bowser Bomb, Bowser's down B, using its new meteor effect that was added into this game. Now not quite enough for a kill on that forward B.
And 3-Star loses the stock due to his inability to recover from that.
Something Little Mac has suffered for, but something Little Mac does specialize in is breaking shields.
And we do see 3-Star absolutely just punishing.
Now what an even match this is right now. This could be anyone's game. All comes down to how these players use the advantages their characters possess.
I do love to see a Little Mac main.
And Bowser cannot quite get to the edge.
See, that's disappointing to say the least.
A few very well executed attacks at the ledge from Little Mac here, keeping Bowser at bay until he could just not recover at all.
And that is something that we've seen quite a bit with the heavy characters, is their, in general, the disadvantage they are when it comes to the recovery aspect of the game.
Being so heavy, being so weighty, they fall very fast. And sometimes that means they go down into areas where they cannot quite get out of. They'll get trapped in situations where they cannot recover.
Now, a character I would also like to see, I know we've mentioned Mii Fighters, so we've crossed Mii Fighters off the list. So we still have Wii Fit Trainer and we still have Piranha Plant. I'd also like to see Ice Climbers. Ice Climbers,
some interesting attacks coming out of those two, for sure.
To be honest, I always think that a player that can desync Ice Climbers is a force to be reckoned with. Absolutely.
Yes, when Ice Climbers have those advantages as the two-man character that they are. And speaking of heavies and the abilities they possess, another character I personally would like to see some action out of in this tournament is the king himself, K. Rool.
Yes.
And as a heavy, it seems like he would not have a very good recovery, but his up B can take him from the bottom to the top of the stage very easily.
We see 3-Star coming pretty hard out of the gate with having Grano in the high percentages rather early on.
Yeah, well, he sits pretty comfortably at 28%. Using that Whirling Fortress to take some damage, but Little Mac has the feared KO punch right now, which would no doubt send Grano off to the blast zones.
Now we see that 3-Star has a pretty strong grasp of Bowser's reach, in that he was able to perfectly avoid the distance of that flame. Now he we do see
Bowser tries to land that very strong forward smash, but does not quite make it.
We saw quite a few whiffs there, back to back to back.
Now, one of the interesting things I think that defines a player from one to the next is how you respond to a whiff like that. When you get up for an attack, but it does not quite land, how do you respond? Some people shield, just hunker down and hope that their opponent attacks them, looking for a parry, and others just run for the hills.
And others, you'll see, will get even more aggressive and just keep going. I always like to see players that aren't phased by a whiff.
It's truly a sign of grace under pressure, which, as we said, is an advantage to have at this tournament.
Well, as a rather new player myself, I'm very familiar with whiffing and having to recover from that. So.
It's something we all have to suffer through building our skills.
Mm-hmm.
I was always the type to instinctively hold that shield, hoping that my opponent would just attack me, hoping I could get a punish, but rarely that happens when your opponent has got your number, when they know how you're going to play. Now, speaking of which, it seems 3-Star has quite the advantage over Bowser right now, damage-wise. The stocks may be even, but he is sitting comfortably at 29%, while Bowser is at a percentage where he could get killed pretty easily, even as a heavy.
Now we see, one of the things that I'm interested to see if maybe Grano is more flustered in this match due to that slightly embarrassing loss that he took towards the end of that last match.
And a mighty punch from Little Mac takes the next stock from Grano. Grano will have to wrap up this match if he wants to gain the victory here. He'll have to take that stock from Little Mac very quickly without suffering too much damage himself. You'll see him using his fire, trying to keep his distance while getting some damage up, but gets caught in a grab from Little Mac.
I personally think one of the biggest mistakes he could make right now is playing conservative. If Grano decides to play conservatively or play defensively, you know, he might be at a disadvantage. But
that KO punch, a mighty blow, takes Bowser straight to the blast zones, and that is the match. 3-star 2-stocking his opponent here.
I'm hoping we see some more exciting matches here right now, because we started out a little spoiled with how some of those matches
We did some phenomenal nail biters in this first round of the tournament, but as it goes on, a bit more imbalance between the two players here, I would say.
Especially with how exciting that match with how we started out, whether it was with Tadashi or whether it was with
Toast and Steelix.
Toast and
that
Steelix.
Match.
I can never remember. With Toast and Steelix, both of those matches were so exciting, and now we're starting to get into the quarterfinal. And to me, it seems like the beginning of pools is looking to be more exciting than the end of pools.
Yes, and as this tournament moves on, some characters may get into more of a seasoned state of mind where they know exactly how they're going to fight. There are no real upsets or huge out of nowhere plays.
One thing that I do think will be interesting is the re-merging. My vocabulary is not working right now. My brain's off. It's Friday. I'm sorry, y'all. Is when we see the winners and losers bracket re-merge.
Yeah, some interesting things can happen at that point. It's a bit like the round of America's Got Talent, if you're familiar with that at all, where the YouTube sensations come into battle. It's like a new emerging threat for both sides of the competition.
Most definitely.
Not the same people they have been battling up against to get through these rounds toward the championship.
You'll definitely see it shake characters right out of their comfort zone, which I always think is an excellent thing.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about, Harvey.
Now, I do believe that we aren't moving on to the next match yet due to the last match not being settled. So we do have another match that's being settled off camera right now, so that the winner of that match will then proceed to our next game.
Yeah.
So yes, we have a bit of a lull in the tournament right now. Anything else you'd like to discuss about this game? Anything you found phenomenal about Ultimate in general?
Well, one of the things that I think I've mentioned before is the personal aspect that the game takes on. I think that one, especially an advantage of Ultimate, is the fact that they've brought back all the characters. So not only do players get to see their favorite characters again, they also get to create a personal attachment and, to some extent, a relationship with the character they play.
Yes, they've really left no stone unturned when it comes to developing this game, putting in every feature they could think of, so that this really does live up to its name as the ultimate Smash Bros.
Now, when it comes to the players themselves, you know, you'll see your players that are more popular, and then you'll also see your players who are not as popular, but people are still very defensive of their mains. That's one thing that I have noticed that's very fun about this game is, as somebody who I am on Twitter, I know you aren't, but you can follow many of the many prolific Smash players that you see compete at Genesis or other tournaments like that, and you'll often see them get into arguments over their favorite players when somebody wants to diss a character that perhaps one player mains.
And what I love about Ultimate right now is that in the early stages of this game, no one has really settled on the top tier character, the one that everyone will be maining. Toward the tail end of Smash for Wii U, those days where everyone just had Bayonetta in their back pocket, bringing her out no matter what the situation was, it got very monotonous, and sometimes it was just painful. To see a player maining a character like Roy, or someone out of the left field, go up against a Bayonetta and just get destroyed by Bayonetta's broken aspects.
Right.
I've seen many tournaments where players in the audience have booed against Bayonetta's gaining the victory that way.
Now, I do see something that is, I think the Smash developers, when seeing that in Smash 4, have gone through and helped to combat some of those extreme disadvantages in this game, and even you see them responding to some of the initial issues with the most recent patch, in which they added Piranha Plant, who we're still hoping for somebody to play. Please play Mrs. Plant. I love that they have come out that Plant is a female as well. I think that's incredible.
Plant is a female. How's that revealed?
There is some dialogue at some point with her and Palu, where Palu refers to her as a she.
Oh, now that is a development.
Now, one thing that... What? Okay.
All right, so this is a friendly that we're seeing right now. They're only warming up.
Jake, can you give me the advertising information, please? You're good. Fries. I like that. Now, we do have a like we said, we have a little bit of a lull in the tournament. This is just a hand warmers match, so this is for no money. This is for no whammies. This is
players just getting a little bit of a sense of their controls here. Sometimes you have to warm up before you
And we can see that as neither of them are attempting to even land any blows on each other. They're truly just warming up.
You really do have to stretch before you start running in many aspects of this game. So speaking of Super Smash Bros. Patches, are you excited for the DLC characters that are no doubt going to be added to this game?
I am, absolutely. One character that I am hoping that we will see that due to the massive external response is that so many people wanted to see Waluigi added to the game. And that when everybody was upset when they did the whole everybody's here and
except Waluigi.
Yeah, and Waluigi was not added, so
he was not here.
Everybody wants to see Waluigi.
I think Sakurai himself has a little bit of a vendetta against Waluigi because of the pressure he's faced from these rabid fans constantly clamoring at him to add Waluigi.
Just add Waluigi.
I think at this point the best option would be to give in or just fight this forever.
Yeah, those are really the two options. Is at some point he'll either have to appease the fans, or maybe it'll just become a thing in of itself where he becomes so spiteful against the character that maybe he'll add every character that has ever existed except Waluigi.
I mean, anything could happen. Anyone can really be added to Smash Bros. At this point. I think Piranha Plant has solidified that in my mind. And like, who'd have thought? No one predicted that.
No, my brother and I often like to joke that sometimes we think that the Sheikah Slate from Breath of the Wild will be added as a character before
as its own character.
Before Waluigi will be added to...
Now, a meme that I did see regarding this Waluigi Piranha Plant situation, a lot of people have found it a little bit sort of like a slap in the face that Piranha Plant, a common enemy, was added to this game's roster before Waluigi. But a meme that I have seen involves Thanos, the famous visionary from Avengers Infinity War, holding a knife with blades on both sides, perfectly balanced as all things should be. And on one side it says Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, where Piranha Plant is an item, Waluigi is playable.
Right.
And now you've got on the other side Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, where Piranha Plant is playable, Waluigi is an item in the form of an assist trophy.
Right.
So, balance.
As all things should be. One thing that I do think is rather funny is, if you have seen the pictures or not, is have you seen the photo comparisons of Bayonetta to the brown M&M?
Yes, I have seen that.
I think that's hilarious.
I will never unsee that now.
Yeah.
Brown M&M definitely having that same swagger that Bayonetta possesses.
We've all known from our youth that the brown M&M was a baddie.
Yes. If you need to learn how to talk to a lady, ask Brown M&M.
Go to your local drugstore or convenience store, purchase that package of M&Ms, and just pull out the brown ones and talk to it. We don't know what we're talking about.
No.
I hope y'all are enjoying this.
Sharing memes, sharing thoughts about this game, it's the best we can do when there's no match happening.
I would like to see some gameplay. I know we're getting some hand warming done at this point. Oh.
It may seem that our wish has been granted.
Hopefully.
I find it kind of interesting that these two players have color coordinated themselves with the skins they've chosen, both choosing a green outfit for their characters.
I wonder if that is intentional or otherwise. Huh? Okay.
Something I liked to do when the game first came out, it was of course Christmas time back then, I liked to select the most festive of all skins that the characters possess.
Right.
Like Link has that red and green outfit. You can play Ridley, he's got a red or a green skin. It's a festive little moment.
I love how in this game, how pretty some of the skins are, to be completely honest. Like, when it comes to my personal favorites are the black and gold skins. So that you'll see on Peach and Rosalina, those black and gold skins are just absolutely gorgeous.
And even Daisy has a skin with a black dress, green highlights, and a little bit of gold trim. I think that's a very, very aesthetic skin.
Now, I'd love to see somebody play Rosalina, and I would love to see somebody that I'm surprised that we have not seen play yet is nobody picks Mewtwo.
No, Mewtwo can really be a force to be reckoned with in tournaments like this.
Especially when it comes to his reach, it's...
The way that tail can really clip an opponent from a surprising distance.
All of his aerials are incredibly powerful, and it's surprising me that nobody's played him.
I love Mewtwo's up smash. It feels very satisfying to just throw a galaxy at your opponent.
Yes.
Hold up that hand and a galaxy just devastates the opponent.
All right, now we are seeing... Now, we don't know who player one's name is, but we do see Lucas versus Fries.
Yes. Fries picking Roy here over Crom, no doubt preferring that shafter that his sword possesses, that being the bottom end of the sword that does a little bit more damage, whereas the tip of the sword kind of wet noodles the opponent, if you connect with that.
Now, Fries comes out rather strong right out of the gate, landing blow after blow on Lucas. Although, at this point, I mean, they both still have 3 stocks, and it can be anybody's game.
Yeah, in the neutral like this, any kind of thing can happen. And Fries getting a shafter against his opponent, the bottom of that blade, dealing some extra knockback and taking Lucas to the blast zone for the first stock of this match.
It appears to be that Lucas is having a hard time making contact with Fries, and Fries is doing an excellent job just avoiding all of his attacks.
Yes, keeping up with that sword can be a little bit of an issue. Lucas being a character that does not hold a weapon, really, does not have that extra range that his sword provides, but his game is projectiles. So I'm surprised we're not seeing more of those being thrown out to combat the range of this sword. Now that up smash we just saw out of Lucas was massive. That's an attack that can really net a stock early, so we may see more of those up smashes.
I'm hoping we see him get a little more aggressive, because right now, I mean,
it looks like he's just kind of becoming a punching bag to his opponent here.
I'm surprised, honestly, not to be mean, but that with his level of aggression that he's made it this far in the winner's bracket.
Yes, and clearly he's defeated some opponents thus far to be getting here. But Fries really seems to have his number in this situation, taking another stock with another bottom of the sword
Now, like
attack.
I said, I really hope that Lucas steps up his A game here and does not allow Fries to 3-stock him.
Lucas could, in this situation, pull out some of the spikes he possesses. His back air can dunk an opponent.
There we go.
And that will definitely settle the score as well. An attack like that.
Now Fries is still a whole stock ahead to some extent of Lucas. So Lucas really has to just avoid all of Fries' attacks and make sure that he plays as aggressively as possible.
Fries does have the luxury of playing a little bit more conservatively, and we just saw Lucas fall to his death, not able to recover at all. Fries netting this win with remarkable ease. Really disappointing to see after we've been expressing this desire to see some more nail-biter matches.
Absolutely.
This did not deliver. But there is one more match, potentially 2, that we can see out of this matchup.
If Lucas will step up his A game, then maybe we'll see something worth watching.
This Lucas player, whoever he is, he did not enter a gamer tag. Any chance that we could find him in the bracket here?
Yo, AJ, in my backpack is the white flowery
Hey, Jake, what bracket is this?
power cord. This is still cool.
Okay,
Okay.
Whose gamer tag is that? Because all we have is Lucas. They didn't enter a gamer tag, so we don't know.
This could be anyone. This is a mystery man here.
Yeah, the bracket's raw now because we had a replacement.
Yeah.
So this could be anyone, folks.
So apparently we have had an upset in the tournament where there are people who I guess are dropping out and being replaced. So the brackets are currently incorrect if you are following along online.
Yeah.
That makes it rather difficult as a commentator because it means we don't have accurate representation. Now we do see whoever is currently player 1 doing a character switch from Lucas to Palu.
Yes, and a different matchup for sure against Roy. No doubt looking to use those projectiles that Palutena possesses, that auto reticle, that dangerous explosive flame able to be fired from a distance.
Now, despite the character change, Fries is still absolutely bodying player 1. He's just aggressive. No, now whoever's doing Palutena is...
This does not have the right advantage here. Not quite utilizing this character to the potential that it could be used.
That's one of my observations of whoever this mysterious player 1 is that in general it seems that they don't necessarily have a full grasp on the capabilities of the players that they're choosing to play.
It could easily be that this is a green player, someone new to this game, trying out a tournament for the first time, which I can appreciate if this is the case. Sometimes you just have to jump right into the shark-infested waters and see how long you survive, to throw an analogy out there.
Well, and if they have competed as the bracket is set up, if they are a green player, I would be incredibly excited for them to have made it this far in the winner's bracket.
Yeah.
Now we do see Fries starting to get up into the high percentages of this game, but Palutena does suffer from only 2 stocks. So
Now, if Palutena could, at this point, without suffering too much damage, take a stock from Fries, it would be much more of an even game, and that back air will have the right amount of power to do that. Palutena only at about 60% right now. Not too much of a dangerous damage, but Fries racking up hit after hit, keeping that damage rising up for the opponent here.
Now, one thing that is definitely an advantage of Palutena's character is she does have quite a strong recovery. So that is one thing that I personally see as, if they are in fact a green player, that that would definitely play to their advantage, is to have a good recovery.
Indeed.
I think that that's one of the learning. Okay. I think that is it in the group chat? Okay. One of the things that I do think is important when you first start playing is acknowledging the important parts of recovery. You know,
yes, which can be a great strength or weakness depending on how strong a character is in that department.
It can be very discouraging for a player to start out this game and go immediately to a heavy and just get absolutely bodied when it comes to
Palutena making that recovery, showcasing that recovery that we have been praising.
But if you start this game immediately and head in with a heavy, sometimes it can be a little discouraging when you continue to fall off the stage.
It's an adjustment to be made, for sure. I definitely recommend that new players to this game check out a character like Mario, someone universal, well-rounded, someone that you can learn a lot of the basics with. Palutena just falling down out to the blast zone, into that yawning void. I don't know what that looks like, but it looked a little bit like a give-up to me. We could have a character who just decided there was no way for him to win.
That is completely true. I'm hoping, like I said, let's hope we have a nail biter coming up soon.
Yeah. Disappointing to see if he really did just throw in the towel right there. I mean, it could have been a flub, it could have been anything, but it looked like he just threw the towel right in.
Now, we would like to once again thank G&G and Southern Smash Club for helping with the logistics and organization of this tournament. You know, Smash Club is a new thing on campus, so this is the first semester of its existence, and they really did quite a lot to help recruit players, not only for the tournament, but just recruit people to watch the tournament and help contribute in general.
Yeah, everything helps. Every little adjustment that people made to be here tonight to support this tournament and everything about it.
Like I've said, Smash is one of those games where there's just such a culture around it, and there are just people who come together truly. And for there to now be a Smash Club on campus, I think is absolutely incredible. So if you do attend Georgia Southern, you enjoy playing Smash, and you would like to be a part of a community that wants to help players improve, or you just want to meet new people who have similar interests to you, I would strongly suggest joining Smash Club.
Smash Club is something that I'm a bit interested in right now. I've not been to any of the meetings so far, but with my brother being involved, with my friends, and some other people greatly praising this club, it's something I would definitely consider attending.
As a member myself, I would definitely say that one of the amazing parts of Smash Club is the fact that they do have a lot of clubs on campus only meet once a week, but Smash Club meets twice a week. So they meet Tuesdays and Thursdays. So as somebody like me who's in a couple different clubs, if I can't make it to one meeting, I always have another one during the week I can attend.
That's something that's very good for a club, I would say. Helps out with people with conflicting schedules.
And one thing that I think is really nice that Smash Club does offer is Tuesdays are friendliest days, so they're all rather non-competitive. It's a more relaxed environment. And Thursdays, the president, Miles, aka Gryffindor, who we saw compete earlier tonight, typically will lead some sort of educational part for the first part of club. So he did a lecture I think a week ago on neutral game, which is always very interesting to learn about the more technical side of Smash. And then the last half of that club meeting is a actual tournament. So
yes.
it is the members competing in a much more competitive environment.
So a well-rounded experience, it sounds like, overall, for any player
Absolutely.
of any skill level.
And another thing,
get something worthwhile out of that club meeting.
Another thing that's really nice about Smash Club in general is the fact that there also are no club dues. So anybody, anywhere, whether you have a Switch or not, can come play.
Yeah, it's just about the love of this game, coming out to enjoy some Smash with some great people. It sounds like a great experience to me. You'll no doubt see me at a couple Smash Club meetings this semester, I think.
Now, as we've said earlier, this tournament is being held as a fundraiser event for Eagles for Eagles, which is it's a charity in Statesboro that supports Georgia Southern students that are struggling financially. Now, if you are a student at Georgia Southern and you, for example, are going to have a hard time meeting the bills that are necessary to pay your rent, you can apply to Eagles for Eagles, and they select people once a month to help contribute to stuff like housing or books and all that stuff. It's an absolutely amazing cause that I think is a really cool opportunity, and one thing that shows that our community at the school really cares about its students.
Yes, anyone should have that experience of going to college, and financial worries can get in the way sometimes. So it's great that things like this exist to help people get around those smaller obstacles that are standing in the way between them and a college career. And I'm glad that events like this can benefit organizations like this that will help people out.
Yeah, most definitely. And AITP is hosting this tournament, so we greatly thank them for putting this event on. We're all here together tonight to experience the amazing game of Smash.
Yeah, so. One way or the other. People are spectating, people are competing, people who are commentating, like Maddie and myself here. We are having a great time.
Just having fun.
Yeah.
Now we are seeing another matchup with Q versus ...
How would you pronounce that? I think that's pronounced meh. ...
I'm gonna say ellipses.
Ellipses. I like that.
Now I believe that ellipses here is I believe that's Kai, who's in Smash Club.
Okay, so another familiar face entering the battlefield here. So Zelda, you've been saying, is a character that you've strongly attached to in this game.
I really enjoy. Particularly a similarity between Zelda and Palu is their ability to teleport, and I think that that's something that's very strong in their abilities in this game, and that can quite often throw a curve in the game, is where
Indeed.
When you can end up from one side of the stage to the other very quickly is sometimes hard for an opponent.
Yeah, an opponent may not be able to predict that and could get caught up in a situation that does not favor them. And something special about Zelda's teleport, which differentiates it from people like Mewtwo, people like Palutena, who just have a neutral teleport that does not really function as an attack.
We have to be watching a hand warmer right now.
I think this is a hand warmer. But Zelda's up B, the teleport, can in fact catch an opponent off guard and use an attack.
Most definitely. I've seen people use the teleport as a bit of a punish before, and I've seen several people end matches just with their teleports.
Yes, one very sure way for a Zelda player to end a match is to gain the advantage over an opponent, catch them off guard, teleport upward, and the attack, the initial teleport, will launch them upward, and then right at the precise moment, the exit of the teleport will catch the opponent, knocking them into the blast zone. And it's always an exciting kill to see in action.
Zelda is a very technical character, but if done correctly, can be absolutely stunning to watch.
Now, I think this is still a bit of a hand warmer that we're seeing here. I'm not sure if this is the match or not. It seems they're fighting now. This could be it.
I do think that this as compared to them before, this does seem to be more competitive than the other one.
I say this is the match.
Just don't cut me.
Now, Zelda's teleport.
Absolutely surprising. We see Zelda go out with a stock very early on in the match just due to the fact that she could not recover.
Yeah.
To me, I think that that's absolutely unacceptable as a Zelda player due to the fact that she does have that teleport to her advantage.
Which gives quite a wide range of recovery, that you can recover from quite the low distance, but falling a little bit too low kept her from recovering in that situation.
Which I can't imagine is, it has to be very frustrating as a player to be this far in the tournament and die from losing a stock as a Zelda player by falling off.
It must be embarrassing. And Zelda, this player, Ellipsis, is no doubt trying to recover from that flub.
And it's a little interesting at this point to see Zelda playing on the edge so much, to be completely honest. I think it's rather odd.
Zelda does benefit from staying near the center of the stage, throwing out those projectiles, using some of her utility moves from a distance comfortably.
I'm interested that the Zelda player is not using her down B more often, due to how powerful that move is.
Yes, that Phantom Slash can really hammer an opponent, send them flying.
And despite the fact that Q is at a high percentage right now, it is shaping up for a potential 3-stock here.
Yes, this player does not seem to know what they're doing, honestly. Either that or Q just really has this player's number. We've seen Ellipsis throw out some smash attacks a little bit arbitrarily, and I don't know what they're thinking right now, but they're not in a position right now.
Especially for how far we
win.
are in this tournament at this point. It's rather confusing.
I mean, this person defeated some opponents. And now we're seeing quite the disappointing performance from this Zelda player, Ellipsis here.
Now we do see Zelda did recover there, and Q did lose a stock to a fall.
See, if this upset happens, what would that be?
That would be
insane.
absolutely incredible. I would really like at this point for Ellipsis to come back in the second round and absolutely just come out a lot stronger than they have in this first one.
Maybe this is just a situation where a player just needs that little bit of extra time to orient himself in the game, get some footing, and start dominating once that little bit of extra footing is gained.
Now we do see Q ending that pretty quickly.
I did not see that going the other way. I saw no chance of that, honestly, but this next matchup could be anything.
I'd like to see an upset. Now that would require that whoever Ellipsis is definitely get a better grasp on that recovery element.
Which makes me wonder if Q might fall to the trap of underestimating your opponent right there.
Most definitely. I do think that that is something that often players can find themselves in trouble if they do, is in this game if they get too comfortable with their first win.
We've already seen a match play out like that, with a character gaining a very high lead damage and stock-wise, and then falling back and losing the match. So the amount of skill in play here is really what determins these matches. Not anyone's advantage or the character they play, or any small things like that.
It's stuff like that that sometimes, you know, maybe Ellipsis is a very talented player that first match just did not reflect.
No. I mean, everyone can have a bad day. Everyone can flub and just lose a stock in an embarrassing manner. But it's about how we recover from that.
Now,
Ellipsis has changed up a character to Lucina, the same character the opponent here is using.
Are we about to see a Lucina-Lucina matchup? I think we are.
This is a mirror match happening. The first mirror match that we are seeing tonight at TekLAN.
Now, when it comes down to mirror matches, it truly is who plays the character better.
And that's honestly what makes them so stressful, I think. I think they're one of the most stressful situations you can face in any fighting game. Because the question in play really is, who here is the better user of this character?
That is one thing where, in other matches, sometimes you do have the ability to blame the loss on a poor matchup. But when you see matches like this, where it is the same character on the same character, you really have no excuse.
This is a completely level playing field, balanced as all things should be.
Now we do see here that this match does seem to be a lot more balanced than the last one.
Yes, these characters trading blows, Q and Ellipsis gaining a pretty even damage percentage lead.
Now we will need to see the Ellipsis maintain that recovery, as opposed to how he fairly early on earned the disadvantage of the last game because he wasn't recovering.
Yes, using Zelda's up B and not quite making it to the ledge cost him a stock very early. So I wonder how he'll be able to make use of Lucina's toolkit here.
I personally think that might be one of the reasons that he switched to Lucina. Is Zelda's recovery with teleport is very effective and works well, but Lucina's is very fast.
Yes, and very reliable. You always know where that's going to go and what it's going to do.
Most definitely. Now we see they are both now at 2 stocks with a rather even percentage, so...
Yes, this is a much more even match than the last one turned out to be. Much more exciting in my mind to see a match like this play out.
Now Q definitely has gained the advantage here, but the percentages aren't far.
Yes, I could very reasonably see Ellipsis gaining some ground, which we see right here. And an attempt to get an attack off the stage does not quite work out.
I adore off-stage attacks. I think they're some of the most fun things to watch in the game. But we see both Q and Ellipsis failing on the making contact with those off-stage attacks.
And things like that can be risky, as there's definitely the presence of that yawning void beneath you as you go for an attack like that, and the risk of being gimped caught up in your opponent's recovery is always something to contend with.
Now, one thing that I do think is interesting about Smash is that the fact that you don't immediately die when you're off screen. You do have just a second to recover with it where you're not shown on the screen.
Yes, even being off stage is not a guaranteed loss for you, because there are blast zones that are hidden beyond the place of the stage that you can see.
Now we do see here that Ellipsis has a high percentage, but he does have that stock advantage right now. I'm hoping we see an upset here. Now, Q went ahead and took that extra stock from Ellipsis, and now is... Well, Q is at a higher percentage. It is a bit more even than it was a minute ago.
Ellipsis trying to get that kill, aiming for large attacks that will take his opponent to the blast zones here, but Q gaining some quick, strong combos in his neutral phase of play here.
I'm really thinking we might get to see...
Oh, and this is not the upset that I thought it was going to be. Q making a speedy recovery from a stock disadvantage.
It's so tragic sometimes when you see those smash attacks land at a somewhat low percentage, like the 80s, that end the game.
Yeah, sometimes that's rare to see, I think.
I do too, but I mean, especially when it comes to characters like Lucina, who's very powerful, and with that sword, she definitely has her reach, you know. It's definitely possible. I do think that as that match could have gone, that Ellipsis definitely recovered from that last.
Indeed, much stronger displays of skill being shown here from Ellipsis, but not able to make the upset. Another victory going to Q here.
Now, I'm not personally, I don't completely understand how the tournament is structured from the perspective that I know that we are pretty deep into the winner's bracket at this point, but I do hope we see Ellipsis in the top 32.
Yeah, that would be very interesting to see from the perspective of someone who roots for the underdog in all circumstances. I really like to see players like that who are maybe underestimated, maybe not expected to make it very far in this tournament, really make a splash here tonight.
Absolutely. And personally, as somebody who loves an underdog, I really hope that they take whatever they learned from that more unfortunate first match and adapt from that.
Which there is always a good chance to do. Like, every loss is just another step toward victory. That's the way I see it.
And as we've mentioned earlier in the day, we talked about how it's always important to have a character to fall back on, and we definitely saw that on this match where Ellipsis was not strong with his initial choice of Zelda, at least against this Lucina matchup, so that he did have a character to fall back on that he was also strong with.
It's all about adapting. If something is not working, you have to change up your strategy. Whether that means changing your character between matches, changing the approach of your fighting style, anything that your opponent just has your number on. It's always good to give a mix-up, to throw your opponent for a loop.
Most definitely. Some people take the idea that having a fallback character makes you a weaker player, but to me, I think it just shows that it makes you more adaptable. Because sometimes you do just encounter someone when you're playing that just knows how to combat all of your main's attacks, and so if you allow them to just body you, that's not really what we want.
Yeah, it's all about being versatile.
This game is all about adaptability.
It is.
So I'm interested to see who we have up next. The stage just keeps getting more and more interesting.
It does. As these matches continue, we've seen a lot of different varied situations. We've seen some nail biters. We've seen some utter curb stomps in some of these matches. And it's very dependent on what kind of players are in the ring here.
Absolutely. Now we're approaching 8:45, so that means the tournament has been going on for about 2 hours and 50 minutes now.
We're well into the winner's bracket at this point. I'm interested to see how things will turn out, who will come up on top of the winner's bracket, and what the loser's bracket is going to start looking like.
Absolutely. Now, if you're new on the stream, Benjamin will be dropping out at 10 o'clock.
At 10 o'clock, I'm going to be tapping out, and my good buddy AJ Hall will be replacing me here on this stream.
And we definitely recommend that you stay tuned in, because after 10, things are just going to get more and more exciting as we move into top 32, top 16, and then top 8.
Yes, the end of this tournament is something I'm excited to see. Even though I will not be here commentating, I will definitely be watching from the wings, waiting to see who comes out on top of this tournament.
Now, one thing that you probably will see as the night progresses, you might see AJ or Benjamin hop back in, replacing me, Benjamin, or AJ, just because we are human and we do need bathroom breaks from time to time.
Indeed. I'm here drinking water. I gotta stay hydrated.
Now, if you hear from the external, we have Elvis and Jake, the two guys who are running the tournament, calling out new stand placements. So people see people getting to their setups and starting play again soon.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this tournament continue to move forward.
Most definitely. One thing that I do think is very interesting about the extensive cast of this game is that you constantly see in almost every game you see new matchups. So
indeed,
you don't get stuck. That's one thing that there were criticisms of early fighting games, is that there are only a limited amount of players that you choose from. So when you only have 8 people to pick from, a lot of times you get the same matchups. Players are more popular than other ones. So like we were talking about with Smash 4 and how Bayonetta was so popular due to how powerful she was, you know, people would pick the same players. But in this one, they've done a great job with making the characters a lot more even. There's a lot more even ground, and so that even players that are lower on the tier list can still be contenders against higher tier characters.
Yes, and it definitely, as this roster expands further and further, I think it's pushing almost 90 right now. How many characters are in this game?
Let me look it up.
We do have a laptop here at our disposal, so we can gain this information, but the point is the roster is huge, and as it continues to grow, we will only see more and more effort being put in of characters and their mains to like gain the advantage by getting a read of what other characters' strengths and weaknesses are. It becomes more and more complicated to do that as the roster expands.
So IGN has on their page that there are currently 76 characters in Smash Ultimate, 74 if you count Pokemon Trainer as one character, 69 unique fighters, and 7 Echo fighters.
So we are almost pushing 80 right now, at the top end of this estimate.
And when this article was published, it was before Piranha Plant was released. So I assume that if you count Pokemon Trainer as one character, due to the addition of Piranha Plant, we now have 75 characters on the roster.
Which is a massive amount. If you think of how many were in the original Smash, it was only 12, I believe. And the amount of extra characters that have been added through the years is just phenomenal to think about, boggling to think about.
Now, one thing that I think is really interesting about Smash in general is the incorporation of all these different characters, because as many people know, when it comes to competing in games and stuff, or when it just comes to owning a console, there are many different people who like many different types of games. And Nintendo is very good at creating all of those different types of games. And one thing that Smash does very well is incorporate all of those different games into one thing.
Yeah.
So even if you aren't a fan of Mario, or even if you aren't a fan of Zelda or any of these other games, there is a character in here that you'll like.
Indeed, anyone could really end up being your main. I would advise new players of this game to try out all sorts of characters. Try heavies, try floating characters, try characters that have strong recoveries, or maybe characters with weak recoveries.
And
see what suits you best.
One thing is that you'll often be surprised where you end up, because a lot of times the character you play best might not be your favorite character in the game. My personal favorite character in the game is Kirby, but I am not the best at Kirby. You know, it's just one of those things where I play better as Peach, so that's the character that I made.
And I think a lot of new players just jump straight into the character that they like the best from their favorite series, but that may not, as you said, align with the type of gameplay that suits them best. So you really have to get out of your comfort zone. Try some characters out.
I'm surprised we have not seen anybody play Kirby tonight, as he is one of the more powerful characters in the game.
Yeah, and a versatile character at that, too, able to copy his opponent's ability with that notorious feature of his neutral B. All kinds of things can happen when Kirby gets a new ability.
They're messing with the lights. So one of the things that's really interesting about Kirby is that character, the power absorption aspect of the character. One thing that's really cute that if you have not seen yet is that when Kirby absorbs plants, that he's peeking out of the plant. It's absolutely adorable.
Yeah, some very, very cute abilities that he can gain here with regards to the costumes.
And a very powerful move is when he I guess consumes his opponent and spits them off the stage. It's just hard to combat sometimes. It is. Now we see Urbz versus Jake, so once again our tournament coordinator is now competing.
And Shulk is a character that I have been really excited about in this game. The way he's been improved since his Smash U days. Back in those days, he was a little bit notorious for having some slow starts on his moves.
Most definitely. Oh, so apparently we are seeing a match restart here due to some controller issues.
Technical difficulties, always a pain in the neck to see here.
Or maybe this is just a hand warmer. Oh, nope. We did not see a neutral restart, but
well, as it seems, this match is now continuing.
So now we see that this match is well underway with things appearing to be rather neutral.
Shulk making use of his speed Monado art we just saw a few seconds ago, hammering his opponent with some very quick blows that speed art will provide him with.
Now, one thing that we are hearing in the background that you guys may or may not hear on stream is we are hearing some last calls. So I think we are getting to the point where some players may or may not have left, may or may not have gotten distracted. So we are, I believe, going to see some no-show DQs.
And it's always a shame to see things like that happen in a tournament.
Now, we do see Jake having lost the first stock. So,
he seems to be having a little bit of trouble against Shulk with the reach of that Monado, really keeping him at bay.
I really love to see two sword characters go up against each other due to both of their reaches just being so intense.
Yet Shulk was originally, when he debuted, the longest reach when it comes to melee attacks is what he possessed. But since then, he has been overtaken by characters like Corrin with a smash attack that reaches a little bit longer than his Monado can. And at this game, at this stage in Ultimate, Simon and Richter are the current leaders when it comes to that forward smash that reaches incredibly far.
Absolutely.
Now I believe Piranha Plant, with his down B, reaches even further.
Now, one thing that is interesting that people have discovered about Piranha Plant is Piranha Plant does have a hidden extra attack where if you crouch as Piranha Plant, if your opponent attempts to jump on top of you, Piranha Plant can attack without actually moving.
True, the auto bite, I believe that's called. It's an interesting utility concept that I'd like to see some players make good use of. I'm interested to see how that will be used.
That's why we want to see somebody play some Plant tonight.
I still have not seen it. I'm not going to rest easy until I see some Plant gameplay.
We want to see the Plant gameplay. Now we see, while they are even on stocks, Jake is at a higher percentage at the moment. But this is still a rather close match, especially compared to Jake's last match that we saw earlier in the in pool.
Indeed. And an up tilt from Urbz, though, takes another stock from Jake. Shulk being quite the versatile character with the amount of arts he's able to harness that will give him boosts in speed or power or weight. Those kind of things can really be tricky for an opponent to predict and react to.
It does also showcase the player's technical ability to multitask and be able to accomplish all those different things. You know, it is difficult to be able to do all those things well at the same time.
Now Crom letting loose a massive sword swing that takes the stock from his opponent. Jake really getting the upper hand here for a moment, but still at a loss in the damage department here.
For just a second, the match did appear to be a bit more neutral, but now Urbz does definitely have the advantage with Jake's percentages increasing.
Now we saw Urbz throw out a smash attack in the wrong direction, and I'm surprised Jake didn't punish that. That seemed like an open window to gain a strong attack and really do some damage to his opponent. Now Urbz is bringing out the feared smash art, which could net a stock at a very like a non-smash oriented move. But it seems that it's timed out.
We do see the match appears to be coming to a close.
Now Jake gets past that notorious counter that Shulk possesses, one of the most feared counters in the game, by hammering him with some multiple hit moves from his up B.
Now, as long as Jake can avoid the contact here and land a few moves on Urbz, I do think we can take this match into a bit more of a neutral area. But he does just have to be careful of how high his percentages are right now.
Urbz is looking to end this, by the way, that I can see, with a counter.
Ooh, and that was a strong move on Jake. Oh.
But Urbz takes the finishing blow without even the dramatic finish close-up effect. So what that means, I can only imagine, is that the game was almost uncertain about whether that would count as a kill. Definitely barely getting a kill by the skin of his teeth. Urbz here taking this match.
That definitely was a bit more of the nail-biting type that we were looking for. That was a much more exciting match than some of the last ones we've seen.
And it's exciting to see Jake, our event coordinator here, holding his own strongly against a powerful opponent.
Return to report something right here and stop.
Now we see here Castle Siege is coming out in the stage selection here, a stage that I don't think we have witnessed tonight yet in this tournament.
Now, one thing that I think it will be interesting is to see, I don't know how the tournament is set up from this perspective, where if Jake, I believe, due to the fact that, from my understanding, it is double elimination, so this is all the money for Jake. If he loses this match, I believe he's out of the tournament.
Yes, if Urbz can take the best 2 out of 3 in this match, Jake will have seen his last in this Smash tournament.
I could be wrong. I don't know how it's set up, but I do believe that if he loses this, then he'll be out. Now, at the beginning of this match, we did start out fairly neutral, but Urbz lands a very strong attack on Jake.
Urbz using his Buster art, an art which increases the damage output of his moves.
Now, despite that very strong attack, Jake has managed to land a few on Urbz and has the advantage.
Pulling ahead.
This is definitely. I imagine that. Urbz and Jake have sensed the necessity and dire nature of this match due to the fact that because, as we've said, that this is for all the money. If Jake is eliminated, he will be knocked out of the tournament. I do not know if Urbz won his last match or not, but so it could be that Urbz has nothing to lose. If he loses his match, it could be he's still in the tournament. But Jake, he definitely has something to lose here.
It's something we're definitely seeing the effects of here, as both characters are fighting to their very last breath, pulling out all the stops here.
Now, Urbz does have the advantage of stock, but he is at a very high percentage, and as we just saw, Jake took advantage of that and punished him for that stock.
But Urbz immediately pulling that Buster back out, looking to score some damage in the neutral. Connecting some strong hits from that Monado sword right there. And he has pulled out the smash.
Whoa, and we see a nice recovery from Jake.
Jake staying in the air to wait out that smash art, something that is very much something to be feared when you're at a high percentage.
Now, one thing that I am not seeing much in this match is any shield use.
No, not a lot of shields are being pulled out.
And I think that that could honestly be one of Jake's problems when it comes to this match, is we do see that in his gameplay that he is taking a lot of damage from hits that Urbz are connecting on him. So potentially that shield use could be saving him. The only one we really see using the shield in this match is Urbz, and as we just saw, he's doing a great job when it comes to timing.
Jake, it seems, is looking to approach his opponent using some strong aerials, and Urbz really has his number in that regard. Usually when Jake approaches with a forward air or any other similar move in this sense, Urbz is there at the ready with a shield.
I definitely think so. This is a close match. You know, Jake was able to take that last stock from Urbz and has evened the game up quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely turning into a nail-biter kind of, in a sense here.
I'm rooting for Jake.
And Jake is doing his best.
And we see Jake officially take the lead. And it's just back and forth right now.
Such a close match. This could be anyone's game. It's going to come down to whether Shulk uses these arts properly or Crom can get around them.
Oh, and we see...
Urbz using a very long-reaching downward smash.
Urbz takes the game.
To take this game.
So I believe due to the fact that this is a double elimination tournament, we do see Jake knocked out.
We did definitely see him lose twice. We saw him lose his last matchup, and he has just lost this one.
It's a little frustrating.
Disappointing to see for sure, but may the best player win. That's the attitude that I always try to keep, even when I'm rooting for someone who has not pulled out a win.
Now, one thing that we have mentioned, but I am going to go ahead and mention, is this is a charity tournament, but we do have some great prizes sponsored by TekCorner. TekCorner is the on-campus, I guess it's kind of like a Best Buy. There's tons of different things. You can buy laptops, you can buy I think you can buy towers for gaming computers and all that stuff, book bags. I think they sell some electric razors. It's really anything that you would need as a student.
Yes, and I will point out that when I was a freshman in 2017, when the Nintendo Switch debuted on the market, I got it at the TekCorner. I pre-ordered it when I knew I could, and it was there on day one. I got to play Breath of the Wild up in my dorm room the minute it came out, and I was happy that day.
Now, one thing that's really, I think, amazing about TekCorner is TekCorner does offer many different packages for incoming freshmen. So if you're an incoming freshman, you can order a package through the TekCorner. I'm not sure of the price, but I have several friends that did that, where you can, I think it might be like $800 or something like that, and you get a laptop, a book bag, and several different school supplies. So many, and it's at a highly discounted price due to the fact that TekCorner does get a lot of things at bulk prices. So they are able to offer students massive discounts when it comes to laptops and book bags and stuff like that.
Which is a very convenient resource for a student, being like a little bit struggling in the cash department, as a lot of college students are.
Absolutely.
And yet still having the access to great technology like that, able to help them a lot in their college career.
And another thing that's awesome about TekCorner is its accessibility on campus. I live in the Centennial Place 2 dorm building, and TekCorner is actually located on the first floor on the exterior of the building. So for those of you who don't attend attend Georgia Southern or who don't know where CP is, CP is pretty much in the heart of campus. So if you need to get to some technical supplies, whether or not you live in the building, Tech Corner is very easy to access.
Yes, and both bus routes stop right in front of Tech Corner, so you can ride the bus from anywhere on campus and end up right at the Tech Corner.
Absolutely. Now, another thing that our campus does have to offer that Benjamin and I both are a part of, and if you are a student on campus, we highly recommend that you come participate in, is Film Club. We meet on Thursdays at 6:30 and we discuss movies and all sorts of stuff like that. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, totally, you can contact me on social media, or there's information all on campus around it.
It totally is a blast. Whether you are a movie producer or a fan of films in general, you can go there, learn some new things, learn about producing films, share things you may have produced yourself with some like-minded people.
One thing that I do think